Hello and welcome. My name is Sadeq Abbass, Managing Director of the Abbass Group. Today at the Prosperity Show, I'm looking forward to talking about our new business venture, Nexar Technologies, which is a CRM that's bespoke and helping business owners all around the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, the number one place where coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs discover the real stories, strategies, and systems that create profitable and enjoyable businesses. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga. And if you've ever felt like you're drowning in deals, in data, or just daily chaos, I think today's episode will feel like a breath of fresh air because our guest didn't just face that overwhelm, but he actually solved it. Now, Sadeq, welcome to the show.
Hello, Prosper. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. I can't wait to dive into your journey and what you have brought, to the show today. Now, for those that are just getting to know Sadeq for the very first time, after years in corporate strategy, where he was working within the ANZ Bank, Sadeq actually built a solid business with, the expertise that he has got. But he also went on and, during his time there, he was working with businesses and he was brokering deals, and he eventually realized something that is very powerful, which I think a lot of businesses miss out on, because most professionals, they lose opportunities not because they lack the leads to actually convince and convert, but it's because they can't actually manage them effectively, because not everyone is going to be looking at your content or looking at your post. You literally need to have some sort of a follow-up system which enables you to constantly be in touch. So he went on and created Nexar Technologies, which is a bespoke CRM solution that helps businesses regain control, streamline sales, and also feel confident that no lead is going to be slipping through the cracks. So as you are going to be discovering, Sadeq's story is part adventure, part transformation, from him being a corporate strategist to now a serial entrepreneur and tech innovator. And we're also going to be getting our passport stamped, as he is going to be telling us about all the 19 countries he has visited, except his country of origin. So before we dive in, I encourage you to subscribe, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this from, because you don't want to miss out on any of the insights and the breakthroughs that are coming your way. Now, Sadeq, I could go on and talk about things and places I've never been to or things I've never done myself. You've traveled to 19 countries, but you've never been to your country of origin. What's the story there?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Prosper. So essentially, my parents and ancestors are all from Afghanistan. I was actually born in Iran when I was back in 1990. So I never was born in Afghanistan, and I moved across to Australia when I was about 7 or 8 years old. And for the last, 25 plus years, I've been in Australia living here. So I've never actually had an opportunity to live in Afghanistan. Now, I don't currently have any family or anyone in Afghanistan at the moment, but I love traveling, and I've been around to many, many, many countries around the world in my years. And I've been to, like you mentioned, about 19 different countries. And at the moment, I just haven't had the opportunity or really the need to go to Afghanistan at this stage. And look, to be honest with you, it's not really the safest place in the world either. So that's just the way that it's been so far.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for giving us that tidbit of information. Now, you do mention that you obviously moved at the age of 7 and 8 coming into Australia. A 7-year-old or 8-year-old already has language down packed, culture down packed, and everything else that comes along with it. What was it like when you first arrived in Australia as a kid?
A big cultural shock for sure. So in Iran, I went to school for about 2 years into primary school and then came across, I think it was in grade two or grade three when I came to Australia. And like you mentioned, at the time, I didn't speak a word of English. So a big, language barrier, which wasn't really a big issue because at a young age, you tend to pick it up and you tend to do okay after that. But the big challenge for me was the cultural shock. So as a child and as a kid, the things that you do overseas in the Middle East and wherever else you grow up tend to be a little bit different to the way that things happen in Australia. So it took me a few years to adapt to that. The language part, not so much of a difficult thing. I didn't speak any English before I came, but like I said, being in school and being at a young age, I was fortunate enough to pick that up pretty early.
Absolutely. And obviously being a child of migrants, there would have been expectations when, obviously what you faced at school was different, but when you came back home, it was a whole different environment. What was that sort of transition for you, like having to deal with, both sides of the coin at the same time?
Yeah, you're right. Look, a lot of the parents from where I'm from, they expect their kids to grow up to be either doctors, lawyers, or engineers. So that's the saying that we normally have. But luckily, in my situation, my parents always wanted me to be, happy and do the best that I can at whatever job I end up doing. So there was no sort of external pressure from that perspective, and they always saw me as a driven, results-driven person and someone who's really, really ambitious to make a difference in the world as well. So fortunately, I didn't have too much pressure. And unfortunately for them, which again, they didn't mind too much, my sister and I didn't end up becoming a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer. So there you go.
Great stuff. But obviously at 7 or 8, your mind is already determined as to what it is that you want to do and who you want to be in society. Was there any sort of aspiration on your part that,
Yes.
this is, yeah.
Always wanted to be a business owner. So I didn't actually know what business, and I didn't actually know that until about 3, 4, 5 years ago either. But always wanted to be in senior leadership positions, running businesses, making a difference in people's lives. Like I always say, well, working at the bank was good as well, but and it gave me a lot of experience to be able to run businesses at the moment. But ever since I was a kid, the only thing that I was focused on from a career perspective was being a successful business owner. And success comes in different ways. It's not necessarily always a financial thing that makes you successful. That's obviously part of it, but it could be making a difference in 20, 30, 40 employees' lives. Putting food on the table for so many people inspires you in a way, and that's success in a way. Giving yourself time and flexibility, that's success in a way. So from a very, very young age, I always knew exactly that I wanted to be a business owner, but I never knew in which industry or field, and I wasn't strict on that either.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a really nice place to sort of start off from. Was there any sort of inspiration, somebody that you knew or somebody that you looked up to? Because representation matters. If there was somebody that you saw and then you're like, you know what, if I do grow up, I want to be exactly like that person.
My dad.
Oh.
My dad. So, dad in Iran, he had a business and he was running between, I think it was Dubai and Iran at the time. And I saw that, and I saw that he was able to give me a lot of love and attention and time as a father. And that inspired me because a lot of other people, they were working pretty hard for what they were doing, but because they weren't in business, they didn't have that time flexibility. And that's the biggest thing that inspired me. And I one day want to be a dad where not only can I provide for my family financially, I think in Australia we're pretty grateful and we've normally got that opportunity, but to be able to provide to them in a different capacity, which is time.
And that is such a nice place to sort of start off from. And you had close proximity to actually see it in retrospect. Some of us had TV, to babysit us and things of that nature. Now, you did say your dad had time. If you could maybe give a few examples of what a typical day would have been like with dad while he's also running around his business, and also what sort of business was he into?
Yeah, so dad, it was an interesting one because he was running an import-export business across Asia and the Middle East, which he started himself. And, when he was coming to Australia, it was a little bit he kind of gave everything up because just like a lot of other migrant stories, you come here and you kind of have to reset and restart your life. So for the last, close to 30 plus years, my dad's been a factory worker. He's been a laborer, I should say. So he's in a factory, and thankfully him and his brothers run a pretty good business up there, and they work in a factory. But prior to that, his life was being at home on the phone, a couple of deals here and there. And, just it's not so much 9 o'clock, I've got to go to the office, sit in front of a computer and leave the office at 4, 5, 6 p.m., whatever it is, come home. It's a matter of just, working from your mobile phone and not a laptop really, and just doing deals. And I'm currently doing that at the moment. Well, not completely, not entirely, but I'm running the deals aspect where I'm just sort of focusing on helping business owners, helping buyers, sellers, whatever it might be, and just doing deals that way. So that gives me a lot of time and flexibility, but I do work hard. I don't work during the typical business hours. I'm up, all hours working, but I love that as well.
Now, obviously, I don't know how you feel about this, but how does that also make you feel that maybe your dad actually sacrificed what he was experiencing, that jet set lifestyle where he could do whatever he wants, opting for, like you say, the factory labor type work, just so that, the family could actually have a good outcome, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, and look, a lot of the parents give up what they've got in a typically sometimes comfortable lifestyle, sometimes not so comfortable, but to have a better lifestyle for the kids, right? And a better future for the kids and better potential for the kids, because it's not easy in those countries, wherever you're from, whether it's Middle East, Asia, Africa, wherever it might be, it's not easy. You might be in a good position from a job perspective, but that's not guaranteed. It might not last more than a day, a year, whatever it might be. So just knowing that they gave up a lot for us motivates me a lot. And I want to give back. Not that they've ever said anything or ever will, but you always want to give back and you always want to make people proud around you. So definitely motivates me a lot. I know that, they've given a lot up, and as have a lot of parents. So I always strive to do my best to make them proud as well.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, before you went on and started your business, you spent over 6 years in strategic management at ANZ. First of all, what was your typical day sort of like? I mean, even if it's across the 6 years, but what were they paying you for?
Yeah, sure. So I spent about 10 years in the corporate world in total, the first 4 in consulting, and then the next 6.5 years after that at ANZ. You're right, I was in pretty senior strategy positions. So my day involved, I was managing a few different teams. So at different times of my tenure at ANZ, I was managing technology teams, technology projects, restructures, things of that nature. And essentially my role would be to, within the specific division that I was at, understand where the bank is today, understand where the bank can be tomorrow, and explain and illustrate to senior management and executives that if we were to invest this much money, then the bank can profit this much, because every single company grows and needs to grow. And the bank is no different to, any other company. So within my strategy roles and management roles and things that I was doing at the bank, I was responsible for providing insights to the bank, helping with the transformation of the business, and helping with the actual transition through to make things more efficient and more, better off for customers as well as bankers as well. So as a customer right now, you're experiencing a lot more ease in terms of transacting. The other day I needed to go to the bank. I just went online and went on the little chat service and had my questions answered. So things like that is how a business evolves, and it actually provides a lot of efficiencies and ease for the customer as well. So those are sort of the type of roles that I played in.
Absolutely. Making people's lives better, because we just, look at the bank interface and then look at what we're being given as feedback, but we don't actually know what's actually happening behind the scenes. And there's people like yourself that make all of that seamlessness happen. So what did this sort of training ground or this corporate life teach you, first of all, about structure that you have now sort of incorporated in your entrepreneurial life now?
Yeah, I think being in corporate teaches you a lot of process and structure. So you get a lot of diligence out of, doing a lot of things that I would say the right way, or a structured way, or a process-driven way. It also teaches you a lot about effective communication, effective stakeholder management. I mean, I was speaking to people who were all different sort of roles. So whether they're a very, very senior executive role or whether they're a more junior graduate role, I was speaking to a lot of different people. I didn't really have a customer facing role where I was speaking to clients as such, but within the corporate realm, whether I was in consulting or banking, I was speaking to a lot of different people, and it just gives you really, really good communication. And some of the things that I use right now is the ability to actually communicate and illustrate different things to clients. And that really helps me put things into perspective for them, because I can really understand what they want, link it up to an ultimate, goal that they have, and illustrate how something can potentially help them achieve what they're looking for.
Because normally when you can actually articulate a problem and, tell somebody what the thing is and they understand it, they automatically assume that you have a solution. But you then went on and left all of that.
I did. It was to be honest, I had a very comfortable lifestyle. I had a very substantial property portfolio. I had a very good life. Everything was all good, but it didn't tick the boxes that I wanted to tick, which was being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, running a business. Like I mentioned, Prosper, for me, it wasn't a financial motivation. Finance is up there. It's, of course, something that's very important to me, but it wasn't the number one driver for me. So I divested out of everything that I had, and I invested into my business and my businesses. And I went full in from the start. I didn't have a transition or a part-time or try this and blend in while I was still employed and had that safety net. I went full and I just backed myself, and I made mistakes and I made things work, and I made a lot of losses and I made a lot of gains and wins. So ultimately I started off with the one business, and now I'm sitting at, a number of different businesses across Australia as well as the UAE. And it's just grown, and I've been very, very fortunate by that. But I'm very cognizant that I have to work very hard to retain this and grow this as well.
Oh, absolutely. And congratulations on that part. But there's always, obviously you've had sort of entrepreneurial sort of exposure through your dad, as you have said, but there's that transition from coming from a cushy job, consistent salary into entrepreneurship. There would have been things that happened while you're trying to juggle all of the things that, was there any time when things maybe would have gotten out of hand, and how'd you handle that?
Of course, a lot, and it still happens every single day almost. So, it's very, very difficult. It's a very big change. It's a very big transition. You're going from, like you said, something that's guaranteed every single, say, Wednesday, Tuesday, whatever it was, that there's going to be, funds in your bank account. That to the extent possible, you've got a job and something sitting there, and there's all these other security and risk preventative measures that are already in place, into something that there's no guarantee. If you work extremely hard as a business owner, there is no guarantee that you're going to win. There's no guarantee that you're going to get paid. There's no guarantee for anything. No one owes you anything at all. And I think the people that succeed the most are the ones that, in my personal opinion, not only persevere with that, but they're really, really passionate about it. And they're really, really passionate about, I guess, the right things, I would say, and not just, some of the motives that probably wouldn't get them to continue. But it's a challenge. It's a challenge every single day. And even if you're winning and your business is winning and everything, there's no guarantee that it's going to continue to win tonight, tomorrow, in the future. So you have to continue to be at it, and you have to have a certain type of personality to be able to do it, because a lot of people out there would probably put their hand up and say, I want to be successful and millionaire, but they probably wouldn't do what it takes. And that's perfectly fine, because maybe they've got a different, preference in life, and there's nothing wrong with that. We need people in all sorts of roles and types of jobs and everything like that. But I think for me, it's really the personality. And for me, the thing that got me through and is continuing to get me to get through is my personality and my passion.
Absolutely. And obviously, talking about being in employment, the reason why there's money in your bank at a specific time and a specific date is because it's a system. And the reason why you've got a place to show up to is because there's systems that would have created. And a lot of people, when they go off on their own, they're not quite cognizant of all these systems, and they haven't put anything in place. Was there maybe a specific moment, or when you were doing or conducting a deal, that you thought, wait a minute, I need to build a system around this or for this?
Yeah, exactly. So That's one of the big things in our business, and anyone that comes in as a as an employee or as part of the team, they walk into a fully systemized process. So yes, at the start there was not a lot of systems or processes, but given my background and where I've come from, fortunately I was able to build those. So any staff that comes into our business, they know exactly what to do. They hit the ground running. They've got an opportunity to make money, regardless of which role they're in. They're always sort of winning. And one fun fact, Prosper, is that I didn't actually mention to you this before, but one fun fact is in the last 3 years of having business, there hasn't been a single person that's resigned from any of my businesses. So that's something that I'm very, very proud of. Yes, there's been people that we've moved on because they weren't performing or, they weren't right for the role or whatever it might have been, but not a single person has ever resigned. So that to me suggests that we've got a fair system in place and processes in place that are keeping people happy, motivated, learning, continuously developing, educating themselves, and just growing by themselves as well as within the business. So that's something that I'm extremely proud of. Of course, one day someone's going to resign, and that's perfectly fine and normal. But so far, we're doing okay.
Oh, absolutely. And congratulations on that, because there's one thing about putting a group of people together. First of all, they have to buy into the business and then buy into you as a person. So you've got two sales to make to those particular people. And then third sale is they have to also buy into themselves within that particular business. And it's you can never really get that balance going. But congratulations on that. And if there are people from Nexar Technologies that are watching right now, if you can just put in the comments below what it is that you enjoy working at, or what it is that you enjoy doing at Nexar, then we would also be able to learn from you there. Now, Sadeq, a lot of people talk about building stuff. Everybody wants to be this, they want to do that, they're going to change the world and they're going to write books. Some people talk about building technologies that will, disrupt certain industries, but you went on and created something. Tell us what you built, why, and what it is.
Yeah, so we started off with the Abbass Group, and I did it in my name or in my surname because of a few reasons. Number one, I think reputation is a very, very big thing for me, and I don't want, I don't have an intention to sell this business ever, regardless of which stage it's at. I always wanted to be the business known for helping consumers and helping people transact on deals, whether it's on a property deal, a finance deal, or a business deal. So I built a business group within the Abbass Group. And we've got multiple divisions in there. We do business broking, advocacy, as well as finance as well. And the business itself is mainly driven out of me trying to work with a lot of stakeholders in the past and in a lot of different companies to get a particular service, whatever service that was. And I wasn't quite comfortable with the level of service I received. I wasn't comfortable with the level of, the processes that they had. And I wasn't I didn't enjoy that transaction very much. And I thought, let me get the licenses that I need. I've got the business mindset and I've got the business knowledge in terms of a management operations perspective and everything. And I'll put the right processes in place and I'll build a system where we can give that exceptional customer experience. And so far, touch wood, we've been able to do, very good in that. We're very highly regarded in the industry, and as well as the clients that we work with and anyone that engages us, we're very highly reviewed. I've been tapped on the shoulder from different agencies looking to interview me and just ask a little bit about how we're doing so well in terms of our customer experience and things of that nature. So that's how it all started under the Abbass Group. And that's going quite well. And then Nexar sort of came a little bit coincidentally out of that because I had so many different things going in so many different directions, and I just wanted a really systemized process to manage customers.
Absolutely. So a lot of people talk about CRMs, but not a lot of people know how to use them or where to get them. And you literally saw a problem in the marketplace and you created a product. How did you transition from problem to product?
So what we experienced was we used some of the major CRMs that were available out there, A lot of them were for free. Some of them we subscribed to, and some of them we paid and we configured to our needs. So we did use about 4 or 5, I would say, different CRMs during our time at the Abbass Group, and we just found that, look, it's major, it's a beast, but you're probably using 1% of it. And although you can somewhat configure it to your needs, it didn't quite tick our boxes. So with my technology background, I set up a technology team and I built it. So I didn't actually code it myself, that the team did, but they've essentially built a CRM that we now use across our different businesses. And the good thing is, I've got a number of different businesses. Someone else might have different divisions within the same business. And there's a lot of different services that you provide to different customers as well. So there's a matrix of things going on. There's one customer in this business needing X service. There's another customer in a different business or a different division needing Y service. And customers need to be nurtured, and they're all over the place in your system. So if you don't know where your customers are, what touch points they've had, what engagements they've had, what they need, then you're going to struggle in your business. So we set up a system where in Nexar, it's highly customizable. We've customized it to our business, and we can do the same thing for someone else's business, regardless of how bespoke their service and product offerings are. And you always know where the customer is. So you always know which customers are in the inquiry stage, which customers have had 5 or 6 touch points, who needs to receive email marketing, who needs to receive a different type of attention, and which staff are actually looking at what customers and how they're performing as well, which is all obviously, goes without saying, available in the dashboards.
Oh, absolutely. See, I like how you said that, the CRM that you're using was major and it was a beast, and that sort of deters a lot of small to medium businesses from actually engaging or using a CRM. And some people just think, CRM is just for big companies just because of, the robustness of what's on the market there. What is the biggest, misconception about such a technology that you'd love to bust right now?
I think the misconception is that CRM is and should be used by any company that has a customer, whether you're a one person show or whether you've got 500 plus employees. You need to have a CRM. Now, the cost to get a customer, as you would know, Prosper, is very, very high. It's very difficult to get a customer in any business. So regardless of what you're offering, you either have to put, very expensive advertisement out, or you have to do networking, or you have to invest a lot of your time or other resources to get a customer. So to get someone to send you an inquiry, it's a very costly exercise, whether it's a financially costly exercise or on your time or otherwise. So we need to maximize every single customer that we do have and that we do get. So even if you're a one-person show and you've got 10, 50, 150 customers, where are they at the moment? So I ask the listeners to just consider and think, all those customers that engaged with you, whether it was 8 years ago or it was yesterday, do you have them somewhere in your system, whether it's on a notepad or an Excel sheet or a CRM? If so, what are you doing about that customer? So we've got customers that engaged us years ago. They're in the system somewhere, they're in their appropriate stages of their life cycle, and they're receiving the appropriate attention. So they might not be getting phone call from us if they inquired 3 years ago, because it's probably not necessary, but they're on our newsletter list. So they get updates of where we're at. And one day they're going to touch base with us and say, hey, look, thanks for keeping me up to date with the market. I'm interested to move forward on one of your services. So that customer that was very, very expensive for us years ago has just become, someone that we can generate revenue through. So every single person, I believe, in a business needs a CRM of some sort, whether you're a one-person show or you have many, many employees.
Absolutely. You see, the whole thing about it, the world has become a global village. And how are you going to be, if you're operating and selling to people, in different time zones, how are you going to know what stage of the buyer's journey somebody is if you actually don't have a CRM? And so many people are working from an Excel spreadsheet, and obviously it becomes costly. And like you said, it really is expensive to be generating new leads all the time if you're not actually maximizing and utilizing the ones that you currently have. So how does this philosophy now shape the way Nexar operates? Because like you said, you've had people that have been in your CRM for 3 or so years and things of that nature. Some people, are always of the sell sort of protocol. But from what you're saying, you literally nurture these leads using your CRM.
Yeah, so the Nexar philosophy is fully customizable, fully bespoke, regardless of what business you're in. So when people go to, Nexar and they put an expression of interest in, we learn a little bit about their business, of how many, employees they've got, how many users they need, what kind of industry they're in, and so on and so forth. And we give them a tailor-made product. So we don't have an off-the-shelf product where they can make some changes to suit their business. We actually bespoke design it for them specifically for that specific business. And it's got anything from their company logo all the way up to, a very specific field in the CRM, which is only known to their business and only relevant to their business, which their counterparts wouldn't use. So our philosophy is very much, providing a bespoke service. And at the end of the day, Prosper, in business, you need to invest money, whether it's to generate customers or whatever. And it costs money to use a CRM, obviously, and to use a lot of different technology, but it costs a lot more money to not use it. And what I mean by that is, you've spent potentially hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, whatever, on the customers that you're never going to hear from ever again because they don't even know about you. They forgot about you.
See, that's the thing about expectations. You see, like right now, you and I are engaged in this conversation. And if somebody is probably sending an ad or trying to reach you on the phone, they're not going to reach you. And it's not because you don't want to be speaking to them or you don't want to buy what they're selling a little later on. You're just occupied with certain things in life that are taking your time and your attention. And so many people just, when they have tried maybe 2 or 3 times and they haven't gotten a response, that's it. And they move on to the next, which literally is frustrating, not only on their part, but also on the part of the customer. Why were you bothering me in the first place? Now, sometimes some businesses require to really educate their audiences so that they actually want what is being sold and things of that nature. And I've noticed that you've made it your mission to offer education or to actually help other people with the education side of things. Can you maybe walk us through why that is important?
Yeah. So one of the key things that I'd like to talk about, Prosper, in relation to that point is the fact that a lot of people, they leave their jobs and they get into a business and running a business, and they want to do it for, flexibility reasons and all these other things. But instead of running a business, they just work for themselves. So they don't have a business, they work for themselves. And that's perfectly fine if that's your goal. But in a lot of instances, I actually noticed when speaking to the business owner that wasn't their ultimate goal. They didn't want to go from working for an employer to working for themselves. They wanted to go from working from an employer to having a business. And things like having systemized processes, which we help as part of Abbass Business Brokers. We provide advisory of how you can have these process-driven solutions in your business. And we also have the systems and tools like Nexar that can help people do that. Things like this actually help you have and run a business. What I mean by that is, why am I able to run 4 different businesses right now? Am I going to help every single customer? No, I'm not. But the system's in place, which means that if I, God forbid, break my leg tomorrow and I'm not able to touch my phone or work for the next month, things are still happening in the background to an extent. The system's in place, customers are coming in, their inquiries are getting handled by the relevant people, and things are happening, invoices are getting generated, and things are moving, the wheels are moving. And my job is to basically grow the business if I'm around, or if I go on a holiday, I can answer a few phone calls and manage the business, right? So the last thing I wanted to do was go from having a good job to working for myself. What I wanted to do was go from having a good job to having a good business. And to have a good business, you need process and you need systems. So that's what ultimately drove us to set this up.
I like that, because you can't climb the ladder of success with your hands full. You can't be picking up the phone, trying to type in an invoice, everything else that comes along with it. And if you've got a family, good luck with that. Is that the reason why you're able to run multiple businesses and, not burn out? Because if that was left to anybody else, they would definitely be stretched thin.
Exactly right. So, if you're dealing with, say, you've got 8 customers that you're dealing with a day and your capacity is 8 customers, you're only ever going to be able to deal with those at 8 customers. You're never going to be able to grow your business. You're never going to be able to do other things. And you're at your limit, you're at your capacity. There's no process, there's no growth in the business. And like I said before, if that's what you're looking to do, that's perfectly fine. That's not a problem. But for me, the work that I do is really a choice. So if I work on the business, it's because I want to grow the business and I want to help my customers and stay close to them and give love to my staff and give training to my staff and customers and just be really, really, really close to them and give them the attention that they need and deserve, and not because I need it to run the business. So, everyone always says to me, you work very, very hard. I do, but it's a choice. So I can, like I said, sometimes I go to Dubai for my other business, and I don't, respond to the Australian inquiries very often. I'd spend maybe half an hour to an hour on them every day or something like that, and things run perfectly fine. So that's, I think, that a really, really important aspect for me to be able to give that flexibility. And you're always going to work. It's not, for me, it's not about retiring or getting myself into a position that I don't have to work anymore, but you want to work in a different capacity. So for example, day one, you've got a lemonade stand, you're pouring lemonades. Day two, you shouldn't be pouring lemonades. Day two, you should be managing the process of pouring lemonades. Day three, you should be looking at setting up a second lemonade stand, and so on and so forth. So you're doing the same, let's call it 40 hours of work a week, but different type of work and more senior type of work. If you're doing the exact same thing that you did on day one, 5 years later, then there's a problem and the business is not growing.
Absolutely. I like the lemonade stand analogy that you've brought in there, because, day one, you're trying to figure out the equal parts lemon juice, equal parts water, how many ice cubes, and how long does it stay, frozen. And once you've got all of that down packed, if you've got it written down, you could literally give that set of instructions to somebody else to just replicate what you have done, and then obviously you move on to do the next thing, and things of that nature. So what you're saying is having a CRM is literally putting the handbrake down while you're driving a Ferrari, because a lot of people are driving their car and they're just the handbrake is on, but once you put it down, it makes you feel a little bit in control and the wheels are spinning a little bit faster. What sort of transformations do you usually see when people have actually, logged into your platform, and what sort of feedback are they giving you?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a really good analogy. Exactly right. The CRM is the center of the business, I would say, or one of the key, core functions of the business that you require. And the type of feedback that we get is people know where their customers are at. So if someone can tell me right now, if a customer inquired last week, what stage of the lifestyle is that customer at? Are they waiting to be called? Have they already been contacted and waiting to be quoted up on? Have they engaged your services and waiting for you to facilitate that service or whatever it might be? Or have they, completed their job and have paid you the invoice? What stage is that customer at? Do you know what that stage the customer at is that? Do you know what stage that customer is at if they inquired last week? If yes, then you've got a really good system and CRM and process. So the feedback that we've got is, I know where my customers are at. I'm more efficient with my customers. I don't need to spend as much on advertisement, because with the same or limited number of customers that I've got, I can do more. So it's not about going and getting new customers. It's about actually doing more with the existing customers that you've already worked so hard to get into your database. So it actually, in essence, it can actually save you a lot of money as well, in particular in the cost of acquiring customers, which the whole business is around getting business and getting customers. So if you can do that, and if you've got customers and you've got a system, then you're cooking with gas.
I like that, because customers don't see the system behind. They just feel good service when they're being nudged at the right time with the right information, with the right kind of pressure. It just really feels like, good customer services. And it also gives a lot of trust in what you're doing, because people feel like they're being listened to, because, nobody really cares about your business. They just care about what you can do for them. And your CRM would actually be that thing for them. And especially if somebody says, call me at 12 o'clock on a Tuesday, and you do that exactly, they'll be like, oh, wait a minute. they would have forgotten they told you that, but your CRM remembered, and then it just makes it look like you're one person that sort of pays attention. Now, if anyone is looking to maybe get started with your CRM, or just find out a little bit more about how they can systemize or stay sane in their business, where can they go to on the internet, Sadeq, and maybe get started?
Yeah, so it's just a simple one, nexartechnologies.com. So NEXAR technologies.com, and just complete the expression of interest form, and someone will reach out to them, go through their requirements, do a demo for them, and quote them up for their specific business requirements as well. So that's an easy one. And if anyone wants to, contact me personally, I'm pretty available online. Sadeq Abbass. If you Google that, you might see me on LinkedIn, a couple of websites, and I'm more than happy to, get in contact with anyone that needs any other services as well.
Absolutely. I'll definitely make sure that all those links are in the show notes so that people can actually get started on their journey with you there. I mean, obviously, we've figured out where you've been, what it is that you're working on. But obviously, as somebody who's working in the tech space and you are always on the move, it would be remiss for me to not ask, what's next? What are you working on that we can be excited about right now, now that you've brought us into your world?
Yeah, look, I am working on a couple of things at the moment. I'm always looking at new ventures, obviously. At Abbass Group, we're always looking for good people. So we're always looking to expand our current business. That's one of the current things that we've got at the moment. So if anyone has an ambition or a good personality or wants to be in, whether it's sales or other similar roles, we can provide the guidance, the education, and everything else that they need to succeed in those roles. So we're looking to grow the business, the Abbass Group. And as I mentioned before, Dubai has been a very close part to me. I spend a bit of time in Dubai during the year as well. So we've got some expansion plans into Dubai at the moment. And then I'm working on another, technology project, which is at this stage confidential, but it's happening. So again, always looking for good technology people as well. We've got a really, really good team at the moment, always looking to grow that. So I always say to people, anyone that's sort of motivated and has the right attitude to work, we will look at them and we'll consider, working with them, whether it's at an employment capacity or otherwise. And we're always open to talking to anyone about anything as well.
Absolutely. I'm really, really intrigued and, can't wait to see what's on the horizon, especially that new project that's undercover. But what an incredible conversation, Sadeq. Thank you so much for taking the time to, share with us what it is that you're doing and who you have become. And I think a lot of people would be inspired by your journey, just like you were inspired by your dad.
I hope so, Prosper. No, look, it's been great. I've really enjoyed today. So thank you very much for your time and the opportunity to talk with you today.
Absolutely. And for those that are watching right now, you can tell that this conversation is just a reminder that systems don't limit us. They actually liberate us. So if you've ever felt buried under spreadsheets, sticky notes, or missed follow-ups, I think it's time to actually take control of your own business operations. As I've said earlier on, you can't climb the ladder of success, with your hands full. So I encourage you to check out Nexar Technologies and see how Sadeq's team can actually help you build a CRM that actually fits your business, not the other way around. And also, I want you to remember that your next big opportunity could already be in your inbox. I mean, it's the clients that you've been sitting on that you haven't actually reached out to and, really found out what it is that they came to you for. All right. The only question is, are you managing it or are you going to be losing it? So if today's episode actually helped you see your business differently, I encourage you to maybe tag a fellow business owner or a friend or a colleague who might actually need to hear this as well. Because a lot of us feel like we are in control of our business, but our businesses are actually controlling us because we haven't let down that handbrake that I was talking about. And if somebody has brought you here, thank them. Thank whoever brought you here. Don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show for more conversations that would help you live a happier and more prosperous existence. Until next time, I can't wait to see what you're going to be doing with this information. And I hope you're going to be building a business that is profitable and enjoyable, something that you absolutely love to run, it's not something that runs you. Until next time, bye for now.